Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Ben Falcon's Media Corner back again with a brand new AK After I Saw review episode for today. This is going to be my review on the newest film that just came out a couple days ago around the world, and which this came out on the same day as Elvis. And I just recently seen this movie, and I just got back from seeing this movie, and I'm here to give you guys my views on this new release. Which this is going to be my review on the 2022 supernatural horror film, and this is a new film from Blumhouse as well. This movie is also based on the short story of the same name by Joe Bell that was published back in 2004 in that movie, and this is going to be my review on The Black Phone. This was directed by Scott Derrickson, and this was also written by him along with another screenwriter, and this tells the story of a boy named Finley, played by Mason Thames, who doesn't have a normal life at home because he has no mother, who has just died, but he has a young sister named Gwen, played by Madeleine McGraw, and he also has an abusive alcoholic father, and pretty much Finley and Gwen go to school, and pretty much for Finley, he gets bullied and all that. He doesn't have any much friends, except there's this one kid in school who teaches him, helps him trying to make sure he can stand up for himself if he gets bullied again or attacked. And what ends up happening after school one day, Finley gets approached by this mysterious man who's like a magic man of sorts. But he's not really a magic man because he is actually a child serial killer named the Grabber, who's played by Ethan Hawke. And so the Grabber kidnaps Finley and takes him back to his home in this underground basement where he locks him up, and there's no way out. And pretty much, there's this mysterious black phone in this basement, and Finley comes across this black phone and receives a few mysterious phone calls that ends up being the Grabber's previous victims that he killed that were also children. And they pretty much these ghost voice from these previous children who were victims of the Grabber give advice to Finley on how to try and escape this creepy character. So we see Finley trying to figure out a way how to escape this creepy character while we cut through back here and forth with Gwen, who uses psychic dreams that has something to do with the Grabber's previous victims that he has killed, while she is trying to find her missing brother and all that. So we see that happening while we cut back to Finley, who's trying to escape the Grabber himself. So that's pretty much the story of The Black Phone. Now, for Scott Derrickson, he has directed some horror films in the past, namely The Exorcism of Emily Rose and Sinister. Emily Rose, I do think, is an underrated horror film, which not much people talk about that film, but I do think is a good watch. But yeah, really underrated. And Sinister, I think, is a lot better than Emily Rose. I think that is a fun, awesome horror film. And not only does Derrickson do horror films, he has done a few sci-fi superhero films before. He's done the Day the Earth Stood Still remake, which I wouldn't say is his best film. I think it's just one of his weakest films. But that remake is nowhere near as good as the original film. And of course, he did the first Doctor Strange back in 2016, which is a great movie. It really fascinates me that horror directors are really damn good at making superhero films. Like Sam Raimi, who you may know him for doing Evil Dead, of course did the Spider-Man movies, and then he did some horrors after that, and he went back to superhero with, of course, the Doctor Strange, with the sequel to Doctor Strange, was of course Multiverse of Madness, which I reviewed that last month. And David S. Sandberg, who of course did Lights Out and Annabelle Creation, and he went on to do Shazam. And of course, he's coming back to do the sequel this year, so I'm looking forward to seeing that soon. And James Wan, who of course did the first Saw movie as well as Insidious and the first two Conjuring movies. And then he moved on to Aquaman, and he went back to horror to do Malignant. It just really fascinates me that horror directors are really damn good at superhero films, but horror is usually the ones that started all their career, is really that started them off as really good directors and all that, and pretty much made a name for themselves for the horror genre. And for Scott Derrickson returning to the horror, I was really interested in seeing what he can do for a horror film. And when I heard this was based off a short story, I never really read the short story before. But the trailers really got me excited for this movie because of the way it looked and all that. And having Ethan Hawke as the star of the film, I was really interested in seeing what he can do for a film like this one. And also, Ethan Hawke has done a film with Scott Derrickson in the past, which was Sinister, which for them who've done a horror film before in the past, I was looking forward to seeing what they can do for their take on this one. And like I said, I saw this today on the 27th of June, and my screening was really packed. There was quite a few people in my screening. And after walking out of this film, I gotta say, for Scott Derrickson's new horror film, I definitely say this is his best horror film. I personally think this is a lot better than Emily Rose and Sinister, because this movie was awesome. It was suspenseful, it was haunting, chilling, but yeah, very exciting at the same time. And definitely another great horror film I experienced this year for 2022 for myself. First things first, Ethan Hawke as the Grabber. He was phenomenal in this movie. He gives one of the best performances out of his career. And for this new horror villain on screen, I think he's definitely one of the most memorable ones in recent. I think he has become, just recently for myself, in my opinion, one of the best horror villains I've seen in recent years, as well as being one of the most memorable ones of this decade by far, because he's just so terrific here in this movie. He has so much going for his character, for his personalities and his intimidation, and being, you know, absolutely frightening and creepy and scary at the same time. And just like I said, Ethan Hawke is just so damn good in this movie. Although he's not in the movie that much, but he is still damn good in this movie, because we mostly focus on the protagonist in the film, which is of course Finley, who's played by Mason Thames, which he was great in the film, and he does some smart choices, which I thought he was really good at it, and I really cared for his character because I really wanted this character to be safe, and I wanted him to escape from this creepy character, and the way he communicates with the Grabber's previous victims on the phone is that you see them as ghosts, but he doesn't see them like as the ghosts, like the ghosts right in front of his eyes and all that. They just stare at him, but Finley, while he's on the phone, he just doesn't. He just hears their voices and all that, which I found that pretty unique in the way. And also Madeleine McGraw, who plays Gwen, who's Finley's young sister, who has psychic dreams. She was great in the film, and for psychic dreams, I thought they were pretty unique as well. When we see her like trying to figure out the mystery and how to basically find Finley and all that, because, you know, she just wants to be with him and all that, and make sure he's okay and all that. Well, we see him, you know, trying to figure out a way on how to escape the Grabber, and she also like prays for Jesus and all that, which the hoping that she can get a dream that has something to do with Finley rather than the previous victims and all that, which I really liked. And as for everyone else in the film, they were great in the film, and the jump scares in the film are really minimal, and yeah, they were really handled really well by Scott Derrickson, which his direction in this film was very haunting and very chilling at the same time. While this movie is set in the 70s, it does feel like a 70s movie for the settings and all that, and for the style of it, which I thought Derrickson did a terrific job from all that for his directing talent. And for, you know, the horror aspect of the film, like I said, he did a terrific job for the suspense moments, the tense moments, and the jump scares, which the jump scares, there's not a single false jump scare that will make you laugh out loud and be like, oh, and oh, that's a joke there. There's none of that, which Derrickson, again, he handled this so well for the jump scares, which most of them are really haunting here. And I really like that. And the story was handled really well, since this is based off a short story, and it was written really well by Derrickson as well, along with another screenwriter. They both did terrific jobs and all that. And this movie plays out so well, since this is an hour and 43 minutes. It never drags on. It didn't make me bored whatsoever, because I was getting really engaged. I was on the edge of my seat, and I was like rooting for the character and the main kid in the film, and hoping he would be okay, and hoping that he would escape from this creepy character. And as for issue with the film, I only have just one small issue with this film. It has something to do with the father. Well, his acting is great in the film. I just didn't know if I didn't even know whether to care or just hate this character, because he's an alcoholic and he's really abusive. For one scene where he's abusive, it was really hard for me to watch, because for that stuff I just don't like that's going on today and for today's generation and all that, because it really just disgusts me, and it makes me physically sick, and I just didn't know what I feel for myself for what I think of this character. But that was just the only issue I had. But in the end, guys, The Black Phone, it was an awesome, scary and haunting, chilling horror thriller, and definitely one of Scott Derrickson's best horror films. If you're a fan of Scott Derrickson's movies, or you're a fan of Ethan Hawke as an actor, you'll definitely have a blast with this one. I do suggest you see this on the big screen, because it's definitely worth watching for, you know, a big fun summer a fun summer cinema trip for yourself here. So that's pretty much all to say about The Black Phone. I'm going to give The Black Phone 4.5 out of 5. Awesome score for another awesome horror film of this year. And also I would say this is definitely another favorite horror movie of mine of this year, alongside X, which I would say this is definitely my best of the year list, alongside with X. And then for the other horror films I really enjoyed this year, like Men and the new Scream movie, I put those as my honorable mentions so far. I still like those films. They're great films, but for these two films, X and this movie, I would say they're awesome films. But personally, I still say X is my favorite horror film of this year. But this is still, another awesome horror film this year, and I'm happy this one did not disappoint me. So thank you so much for watching my AK After I Saw review on The Black Phone, and let me know what you think of this film, if you've just recently seen this film or if you've already seen this film. Did you have a blast with this, or was this not really a popcorn treat? Again, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more reviews, and as always, this has been Foggins Media Corner signing off.